There you are. Welcome back. Filament behind me, wall next to me, and this sweet model right here. This is the bearded skull. That's right, from Roji Studios. Everybody says it looks like Jean from Proper Printing, and if you said that, you wouldn't be wrong. However, there's a new model out. Have a look at this. This is the bearded pumpkin skull, just in time for Halloween. And it's a new model from Roji Studios, and it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. The ombre here is fantastic. This is a filament from Hype Color or Pink Luminade. Sarah and her boyfriend Brett, wonderful people, and I don't know if it's available anymore, but this model, printed at 200% scale, showcases the detail that Roji Studios has put into this, just like the previous model right there. What's really interesting about the way that I printed this is that it uses something called lightning infill. Lightning infill was first introduced, I believe, in Cura, and then ported over to Bamboo Slicer and Prusa Slicer because of open source efforts. Yay, open source! Lightning infill is really interesting because rather than building infill from the base of an object, it starts making these lightning-esque patterns that originate from the sidewalls of the model. And if something needs a lot of support in the middle, then it can calculate, I believe at a 45-degree angle, how many of these things need to come together to then support the model. And actually, I printed something with lightning infill and I filmed a time lapse to show you. This starts to demonstrate the lightning infill. And what I was gonna do was film this awesome time lapse. And so the time lapse from an iPhone kind of shows you how the printer went for a bit and then bam, it knocked it off the build plate. Oh, don't worry. It's running Clipper and I've got a USB webcam attached to it. So I filmed a separate time lapse at the same time, and it too shows you how it just failed catastrophically. Usually when we talk about infill in a 3D print, we have to talk about the speed at which the infill is laid down. And a lot of times because it's built up from the bottom, people just go full send and lay down all sorts of material really, really fast. But with lightning infill, that might not be the best method because of all of these lightning-esque filament paths that have to be laid down almost 1 or 2 pathways wide. I believe this got knocked off because the head was moving too fast in the infill, hit one of the little lightning strikes on the inside, and knocked the model off. It's unfortunate, but what I can do is print it again, slow it down, and hopefully find success. Which is what I did for this next model. This is the Roji Studios bearded pumpkin skull, and it is printed in flexible PLA. Flexible, normally we associate with a TPU or a TPE. This is flexible PLA from a company called Ataraxia Art, and they say it is not PLA flooded with a bunch of TPU. It's different.
You should see how we pee.
This is flexible, and I printed it on the V400, and when we were talking about slowing it down for the infill, I slowed it down for this because we're talking about a flexible material. The V400 is direct drive, but you still need to approach moderate speeds when dealing with flexibles, and that's what I did with this. The problem is I changed it to, I believe, a grid or a cubic infill at 20%. So it's flexible in that it's made with flexible material, but it's dense. Like dense, like really, really indestructible dense. In fact, over on a YouTube short that I put out, I asked people if they wanted to see me hit it with a hammer. Hit it with a hammer, 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 which I did over and over again, and it didn't break. So I asked more people, hey, what else should I hit this with? And some people suggested driving it over with a car. Stay tuned. Oh, and finally, I was just gonna mention something about how I like to print big, and I sure did. This is the Roji Studios skull, and it is massive in size. Look at that. Look at the size of this thing. This is massive. I printed this on the FlashForge Creator 4. This behemoth monster of a machine in my garage. It has a massive X, Y, and Z build volume, and what's crazy is that because it has industrial applications, it does have a heated chamber. So this massive 87-hour 3D print is in ABS.
Nice!
Normally when we think about ABS, we think about all sorts of warping and not sticking to the bed and not working right. And typically it's because ABS requires not necessarily a heated chamber, but a chamber free from drafts. And that's why if you put some shielding around a 3D printer, you can actually keep the drafts out and have success when printing with ABS. But having that heated chamber is almost like a cheat code. I did print the stand as well. This is also in ABS, and if I put it right here, I just want to stare at this thing. Have a look. You know, as I spin it, you can kind of see a two-tone nature to it, right? Well, because it prints on the build plate like this, then the layers are like this. And right here, it was starting to run out of filament. This takes nearly a full kilogram, nearly one full spool of ABS. And what I had loaded on there was from Flash Forge for the Creator 4, but I had done some other prints with it. So I thought I had enough, but I didn't. And so this little line that you see right here, this is Flash Forge filament. That is old ABS from Intamsys when I had one of their machines in the studio. It's not that big of a deal though, because I have some plans for it. There is a little bit of layer separation right here, just a smidge. And if I push down, it does come together. And so here's what I'm thinking. What I want to do is go get myself some acetone and add it to the sides, kind of brush it on and melt the ABS together while I put some pressure on it. We have to give it that time in order to do it before I paint it. So if you go to Roji Studios, I got it from their Patreon, and if you look at the color, there's the orange, this is some greenish brownish up here. The eye sockets are black, and the beard is a different color, and the teeth are white. And so I have an idea. I've got some orange paints, I've got some rub and buff, and I got some paint brushes, and I got a respirator and some glasses, and I think I want to paint this. But first, we need to fix this, and while that's drying, curing, cohesing, what if we run this over with a car? Pumpkin's in place in front of the tire. I've got a GoPro recording up nice and close, and now I'm gonna run over the pumpkin. 3, 2, 1. What? Look, look. You got tire marks. Well, that was sure interesting, wasn't it? The flexible filament didn't really give way. I'm looking at it, and it's slightly crooked. But running it over with my truck literally did little to no damage, and that's surprising to say the least. So now, like I said at the end, it's up to you now. What are other ways that I can test this print for its strength and durability? Because I don't know, running it over a truck would certainly hurt me. It did nothing to that. So what's up next? That 16-inch black ABS print from the Flash Forge Creator 4 that I was finishing. I taped it and primed it, and I hope you're ready to see this. Ready? In 3, 2, 1.
Oh.
That's not it. That's not it at all. But this is another one that I did, and I thought you'd like this. This is the pumpkin bearded skull from Roji Studios, and I painted this in Bamboo Slicer and printed it in 4 different colors on my Bamboo X1 Carbon 3D printer, and I think it turned out great. I went with a certain look in the beard there. See how there's these white parts and these glittery silver parts, and then of course the eye sockets and the nose sockets are black as night.
I'm Batman.
And then orange for the rest of it. It's tiny, but it looks really cool. We want to talk about the big one. I'm sorry about that. But I did take some creative inspiration from this. So, are you ready?
Just do it!
Bam! Look at that. This is the bearded pumpkin skull from Roji Studios. And this is 16.5 inches tall, black ABS, printed on the FlashForge Creator 4 and finished by me. I went and did all sorts of crazy stuff that I always wanted to do, but just never seemed to have the time to do. I first took care of that part right here that was kind of delaminated a little bit because of the different ABS materials. Turns out I probably should have done it in the front as well, because you can kind of see a line right there. I then taped off the beard section. I painted the top with an orange rattle can paint. I then weathered it with some black, brown, and green, paying attention up here to the stem. Primer I used for this was black primer. So had I used a white primer, it would have made the colors pop and fluoresce a bit more. A black primer with the black material actually keeps the colors, you know, muted and darker, and it looks better. The weathering and the wash that I did with the different colors really sort of give it that aged look. And then the beard. The beard is Rub and Buff. My wife and I went to a craft store, and I bought a couple containers of Rub and Buff. Rub and Buff is like, if you haven't used it before, it's a waxy, metallic sort of paste. And a lot of people use it to add gold or silver accents to things. I went and put some on a gloved finger and then just kind of brushed it on to give it that look. I'm looking at the monitor right here, and it looks so good. There are a couple places that I got the Rub and Buff that I shouldn't have, like right there and right there. But that's okay. That's okay. I think it looks amazing. Downright amazing, and I hope you think so as well. Plus, what's really great, because I am a Patreon supporter of Roji Studios, it gives me a commercial license to be able to sell prints such as this. So this and that are going to be in the Etsy store. You can find the link in the description. At the end of the day, being creative with crafts and 3D prints is just, it's something that I've always loved doing. And unfortunately, it's either I don't have the space to do it or I don't have the time to do it. So what I did is I made the space and I took the time to do it right. I guess that's how it goes, but I made this. And so now I'm excited to do more things. If you've done really crafty, cool things with your 3D prints, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know down in the comments. And what do you think of this? How does it look? I think it's stellar. I think it's absolutely stellar. I'm looking at the monitor right here and it just pops. I'm so happy with it. If you made it this far, you're awesome. Don't forget to hug each other more. Fight for a cause you believe in. Happy Halloween. And as always, high five.